This morning we have a collection of scriptures to consider, some of which we will read out loud and some of which will be there for you to read later today or look up as the sermon goes on. Our first scripture comes from our study in Ephesians 6:16. In addition to all of these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. And then from Hebrews 11, faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. Through their faith, the people in days of old earned a good reputation. By faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command, that what we now see did not come from anything that can be seen. It was by faith that Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and go to another land that God would give him as his inheritance. He went without knowing where he was going. And even when he reached the land God promised him, he lived there by faith. For he was like a foreigner living in tents, and so did Isaac and Jacob. Inherited the same promise. Abraham was confidently looking forward to a city with eternal foundations, a city designed and built by God. It was by faith that even Sarah was able to have a child, though she was barren and was too old. She believed that God would keep his promise, and so a whole nation came from this one man who was as good as dead, a nation with so many people that, like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore, there was no way to count them. And beginning again at 32, how much do I need to say it? It would take too long to recount the stories of faith of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah, David and Samuel and all the prophets. By faith, these people overthrew kingdoms, ruled with justice, and received what God had promised them. But others were tortured, refusing to turn from God in order to be set free. They placed their hope in a better life after the resurrection. Some were jeered at, others were chained in prisons. Some died by stoning, and still others were killed by the sword. All these people earned a good reputation because of their faith. Yet none of them received all that God had promised, for God had something better in mind for us, so that they would not reach perfection without us. Other references to consider today are Psalm 91, verses 3 through 6, 1 John 5, 1 through 4, and Proverbs 30, 5 and 6. These are the words of the Lord. Thanks be to God.